My name is Janet L. Green, and I am 29 years old. At my boyfriend's birthday dinner party, while introducing me, he smiled and said, "Don't be under any misunderstanding." Yeah, just temporary. The people listening laughed. I stood up, went to the counter, paid my bill, and left. When he realized what had happened, he came to my office with his aunt. I work as a commercial architect, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I was building something real with someone. His name was Adrian. We had been together for 8 months, long enough that I had started imagining a future, short enough that I apparently had not seen who he really was. We met at a mutual friend's housewarming party in March. Adrian was charming, quick-witted, and had this way of making you feel like the only person in the room when he wanted to. Within a month, we were spending most weekends together. He worked in pharmaceutical sales, traveled often for conferences, and had a close-knit family he talked about constantly. I liked that about him, the family thing. Mine was scattered across 3 states, and I had always wanted that kind of closeness, that sense of belonging somewhere. The problem started small, so small I convinced myself I was overreacting. He would make little jokes at my expense in front of his friends. "She's not exactly handy," he would say with a laugh when I mentioned hiring someone to fix my kitchen cabinet. Or, "Don't ask her about sports. Trust me." I laughed them off at first. Everyone teases their partner, right? But there was something in his eyes when he said those things. A glint of satisfaction. Like he enjoyed watching me shrink a little in front of people. By July, the comments had escalated. He would forget to introduce me at gatherings, leaving me standing awkwardly at the edge of conversations. He would check his phone constantly when we were alone, but become completely present when his friends were around. When I brought it up once, he looked at me like I was being ridiculous. "You're so insecure," he said, shaking his head. "It's not attractive." I dropped it. I started working later, going to the gym more, anything to avoid the feeling that I was somehow failing a test I did not know I was taking. His birthday fell on a Saturday in late November. He had been planning the dinner for weeks, sending daily updates about the guest list, the menu, and what he was going to wear. He invited his entire friend group and a few family members to an upscale Italian place downtown, the kind with a 3-week wait list and entrees that cost $40. He asked me to come early to help greet people and make a good impression. I showed up at 6:30 in a black dress and wool coat, holding a carefully wrapped gift I had spent 2 hours picking out. A vintage compass bracelet he had admired in an antique shop months before. I had gone back 3 times to make sure it was the right one. "You look nice," he said when I arrived, barely glancing at me. His eyes were already scanning the room, tracking who had arrived and who was still missing. The restaurant had exposed brick walls and Edison bulbs hanging from the ceiling in geometric patterns. About 20 people were scattered around a long table in the private dining area. I knew maybe 4 of them. Adrian moved between groups, laughing loudly, touching shoulders, throwing his head back in that polished way he did when he wanted everyone to notice him. He was completely in his element. I stood near the bar, nursing a gin and tonic, making small talk with his cousin about real estate prices and interest rates. Around 7:30, after everyone had arrived and the appetizers were making their rounds, Adrian decided it was time for introductions. He clinked his glass with a fork, and the table quieted immediately. Everyone turned toward him, smiling, expectant. I assumed he was going to thank people for coming. Maybe say something sweet about turning 30 and feeling grateful. Instead, he gestured toward me with his wine glass. "Everyone, this is Janet," he said brightly. "My girlfriend." People smiled. A few waved. Someone raised their glass. I nodded back, feeling awkward but not alarmed yet. Then he added with that same bright performer's smile, "Don't be under any misunderstanding." "Yeah, just temporary." The table erupted in laughter, not polite chuckles, real laughter. His best friend slapped the table so hard the silverware rattled. His cousin nearly spit out his drink. Someone in the back yelled, "Adrian!" in mock scandal, which only made everyone laugh harder. I stood frozen, the sound washing over me like cold water. My face felt hot, then cold, then numb. Adrian was not looking at me anymore. He was soaking in the attention, grinning like he had delivered the punchline of the year. I set my drink down carefully. My hands were steady, strangely steady. I walked to the counter near the entrance where they kept the checks. The hostess looked confused. "I need to pay for my portion," I said quietly. "Ma'am, it's a group tab. Just my drinks and appetizer, please." She hesitated, glancing toward the dining area where the laughter was finally dying down. "Are you sure?" "Yes." I signed the receipt without looking at the total and walked toward the door. Behind me, someone called for more wine. I pushed through the heavy front door and stepped into the November air. The cold hit my face sharp and clean. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again, and again. I walked 3 blocks to my car, got in, and sat there for a moment, staring at the restaurant lights in the distance. Then I started the engine and drove home. By the time I unlocked my apartment door, I had 17 missed calls and twice as many texts. Most were from Adrian. A few were from his friends. One was from his cousin asking if I was okay. I deleted most of them without reading and poured myself a whiskey, the nice bottle I had been saving for something special. Then I sat on my couch in the dark and tried to understand what had just happened. The texts kept coming, lighting up my phone screen one after another. "Janet, where did you go? Are you seriously leaving right now? Call me." Around midnight, the tone changed. "Come on, it was a joke. You're being ridiculous. Everyone thinks you overreacted. You embarrassed me in front of my whole family." I stared at that last one for a long time. I embarrassed him, not the man who publicly called me temporary. Not the table full of people laughing at me like I was a prop in his birthday performance. Me, the woman who quietly paid her own bill and left. I turned my phone off and went to bed. Sunday, I ignored the world. I went for a long run through the park, the kind where your lungs burn and your thoughts finally stop chasing each other. I cleaned my apartment, deep cleaned it, scrubbing baseboards and organizing closets I had ignored for months. I ordered Thai food, watched a documentary about brutalist architecture, and tried not to think about the fact that my phone was still off. Around 8 p.m., I turned it back on. The messages had stopped. There was one voicemail from Adrian. His voice was tight and angry. "I don't know what your problem is, but you made me look like an idiot on my birthday. Everyone kept asking where you went. I had to make excuses for you. Call me back so we can talk about this like adults." I deleted it. Then I blocked his number. Monday morning felt unreal. I got up, made coffee, put on a suit, and went to work like nothing had happened. My office was downtown in an older building with high ceilings and terrible heating. I liked it there. It was one of those places where I could lose myself in drawings and deadlines, where nobody asked about my feelings unless a project schedule depended on them. I had a mixed-use development proposal due Wednesday. I buried myself in it, redlining plans, adjusting load calculations, tweaking the facade design until the lines on the screen felt more stable than my life had in months. Around 11, my desk phone rang. Internal line. "Patricia, our receptionist. Janet, there's someone here to see you. I don't have any appointments. She says it's personal. It's Adrian, and there's a woman with him." My jaw tightened. "Tell them I'm in a meeting." She's insisting. They're making a bit of a scene. I closed my eyes and took a breath. Of course he brought backup. Adrian never entered a room without an audience if he could help it. I saved my work, straightened my desk, and walked to the lobby. Adrian was standing near the elevators, arms crossed, looking like he had barely slept. His hair was messy, his jaw unshaven, his expensive coat hanging open like he had dressed in a hurry. Next to him stood a woman in her 50s, polished and stern, with silver-streaked hair and an expensive leather handbag. His Aunt Marlene. I had met her once at a summer barbecue. She owned a small interior design company and had spent most of the afternoon judging everyone's kitchen choices. "Janet," Adrian started, agitated, voice strained. "We need to talk." "No, we don't." I kept my voice level. "Professional." The same voice I used with contractors who tried to pretend they had not missed inspection deadlines. You made your position clear on Saturday. I'm respecting it. Marlene stepped forward, hands raised slightly. Honey, maybe we can all sit down somewhere and talk this through. I'm not your honey, I said calmly. And no, we can't. Adrian's face flushed. You're being childish. It was a joke. Everyone laughed. You're the only one who didn't get it. I got it, I said. That's why I left. Oh my God, you're so sensitive. Yes, I said. I've heard. But jokes are supposed to be funny for everyone involved. That wasn't funny for me. That was you telling a room full of people that I don't matter to you. Message received. Marlene looked between us, her confidence starting to crack. Adrian, what exactly did you say? He hesitated. I introduced her and said she was temporary. It was sarcasm. I was making fun of the idea that relationships have to be so serious all the time. It didn't sound like sarcasm, I said. It sounded like the truth. Because you're paranoid, he snapped. You've always been paranoid about us, about what I think, what my friends think. Maybe because you spent 8 months giving me reasons to be. Patricia was trying very hard to look busy at her desk. A coworker slowed near the hallway, pretending to check his phone while clearly listening. Marlene cleared her throat. Janet, I think my nephew made a mistake, but walking out on his birthday was the right call, I finished. Actually, the only call. Adrian's eyes shone with angry tears. You're really going to throw away 8 months over this? No, I said. You threw it away Saturday. I just had the dignity to walk out instead of sitting there while you collected laughs at my expense. It wasn't at your expense. Then who was the joke about, Adrian? Because from where I was standing, I was the punchline. He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. And there it was, the cruelty that always surfaced when charm stopped working. Everyone was right about you. You're boring, you're small, you have no sense of humor. I was settling. The words landed exactly where he aimed them. But instead of pain, I felt tired. Then it's a good thing you don't have to anymore. I turned and walked back toward my office. Behind me, I heard Marlene whisper something sharp to him. Then the elevator doors opened. My hands were shaking when I sat down at my desk. I stared at my screen for a full minute before the plans came back into focus. Patricia called a few minutes later. You okay? Yes, thank you for warning me. For what it's worth, she said. He was completely out of line. Both of them. I know. Good. If they come back, I'm calling security. They didn't come back. The week that followed was strange. Quiet. I half expected more confrontations, more dramatic messages, more people telling me I could not take a joke. But there was nothing. Adrian's social media went dark. No posts, no stories, no curated birthday recap. Then Lauren, a mutual friend, texted me. Hey, heard what happened. You doing okay? I'm fine. For what it's worth, I thought what he said was messed up. A few of us did. We just didn't know what to say in the moment. I read the message twice. Then another one came. He's been weird about you for a while. Like he wanted to date you, but also wanted everyone to know that he could do better. It was uncomfortable to watch. That stung more than I expected. Not because it surprised me, but because it confirmed what I had spent months trying not to know. I had been auditioning for a role he had never intended to give me. And the worst part was, other people had seen it before I had. By Friday, I had settled into a new rhythm. Work, gym, home. Quiet dinners, clean sheets. Sketchbooks opened on the coffee table. I started drawing again in the evenings, something I had not done since college. Mostly buildings at first, then strange abstract shapes, lines that did not need to impress a client or explain themselves to anyone. My appetite came back. I slept through the night for the first time in weeks. One morning, while brushing my teeth, I realized the tightness in my shoulders was gone. I had not noticed how much of myself I had been holding in place around Adrian. 2 weeks after the birthday dinner, I was at a coffee shop near my apartment when I saw his sister, Talia. She was in line ahead of me, holding a latte and a paper bag. And when she turned, we made direct eye contact. She froze. Janet, she said carefully. Talia. She hesitated, then stepped toward me. Can we talk for a second? I nodded toward a table in the corner. We sat across from each other, the coffee shop humming around us. She looked uncomfortable, fingers wrapped around her cup like she needed the warmth. I'm not here to defend him, she said. What Adrian said was cruel. I told him that night after you left. I stayed quiet. He keeps saying he didn't mean it that way, she continued. That he was nervous and trying to be funny. That you took it wrong. He accomplished one of those things, I said. Talia winced. Yeah, I know. She looked down at her coffee. He's always been like this. Since we were kids. When he feels insecure, he makes someone else smaller so he can feel bigger. My parents let him get away with it because he's the youngest and charming, and everyone thinks charming people cannot be cruel. That sentence sat between us. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you deserved better. And because I think he knows that now, even if he's too proud to say it. That doesn't change anything. No, she said softly, it doesn't. She told me his Aunt Marlene felt foolish after she finally understood what he had said word for word. Apparently, Adrian had tried to downplay it as sarcasm until several people confirmed exactly how the joke landed. Marlene had lit into him in the parking lot after they left my office. I've never seen her that angry, Talia said. She told him he embarrassed himself, not you. I did not feel victorious. Just tired, and maybe a little relieved. Not everyone had thought I was crazy. Not everyone had laughed and forgotten. Before Talia left, she said, For what it's worth, you walking out scared him more than if you had yelled. Good, I said. A month later, in early December, I ran into Lauren at a holiday mixer for local businesses. She pulled me aside during cocktail hour, lowering her voice like she was about to share classified information. Did you hear? Adrian's moving. I took a sip of wine. Where? Boston. His company is transferring him. Good for him. Lauren gave me a look. He's telling people it's a promotion, but I heard he requested it. Things got awkward after everyone found out what really happened. People started looking at him differently. I set my glass down. Lauren, I appreciate you telling me, but I don't need updates about him. I know, I just thought it might give you closure. I got closure when I walked out of the restaurant. She smiled. Fair enough, you seem better, honestly. I am, and I was. I had started seeing someone new casually. His name was Evan. He taught high school art and laughed at my dry jokes without making me feel like I had to earn the reaction. He asked about my work and actually listened. On our second date, I caught myself talking about architecture with my hands, animated and unguarded. And he watched me like enthusiasm was not something to be mocked. Work was going well, too. I finished the mixed-use proposal and won the contract, beating 2 other firms. My supervisor said the design had confidence, like I had stopped apologizing for taking up space. Maybe I had. The last time I really thought about that birthday dinner was in mid-December, while designing a client's home office. She wanted something bold, something functional but unforgettable. As I sketched, I realized I was proposing lines I would have been afraid of 8 months earlier. Too unconventional. Too confident. Too likely to be rejected. But I was not afraid anymore. I had spent 8 months making myself smaller to fit beside a man who only felt large when someone else shrank. I dimmed my humor, softened my opinions, second-guessed my instincts, and apologized for taking up space in rooms where he had invited me. Then he finally said the quiet part out loud. Temporary. People ask sometimes if I regret walking out. If I wish I had stayed, confronted him, forced him to apologize in front of everyone. Walking out was the cleanest line I ever drew. No cruelty, no screaming, no performance. Just a woman standing up from a table where she was treated like a punchline and deciding she would never sit there again. Adrian was right about one thing. Someone in that relationship was temporary. It just was not me.